All right, Aaron, look, here we are, a couple games under 500. To give us an idea, frustration level with the start of the season for you, and if you sense that amongst the guys, a couple weeks into the season.
I mean, certainly we would like to have a better record at this point. So there's, anytime, we have high expectations, we show up to the yard every day. We expect to go out and get a W. But that said, like, I feel like the mindset and the focus of the guys and the belief that, we'll turn this thing around and get going is always imminent with this group. I don't feel like there's any kind of, overwhelming pressing going on or anything like that. I think the guys have the right frame of mind as far as knowing it's a long season, know you're going to take your lumps at different times. But I think they fully expect to show up tomorrow and hopefully kick off a really good homestand.
I don't want to nitpick one particular game, but I'm going to ask about yesterday only because today's an off day, and the decision not to play DJ and not to play Stanton, knowing there's an off day, and offensively the team has been struggling. Walk Yankee fans through why those guys didn't play with today being off.
They needed an off day yesterday. DJ, especially just going on the turf like he did early in the season, it just felt like it was the right time for that. Kind of had it planned a couple days ahead. Made more of a last-minute decision on Giancarlo, but I was even leaning towards getting DJ off his feet on the game before. But with Glaber jamming his finger and being out, he had to go. But it was something that I really felt like he needed. And with the day off, hopefully, a big reset for both those guys.
So throughout this game, and it was a very close game, do you say to yourself, it's an off day, I'm not going to them? Or was there a time where you were considering going to DJ or going to Giancarlo off the bench yesterday?
Oh, I definitely would have gone to him yesterday. Potentially if there was a runner on, in definitely in the was that the 8th or the 9th? Both guys were available, and would have, if they brought in a lefty or if there was a run scoring situation, they were both in play.
Why not? I guess my further question would be then why not use him? Because like Jay Bruce with one out, nobody on, sure, he can hit a home run, but so can Giancarlo. So even though there wasn't like an obvious run scoring situation, there was a runner on first in the 8th. Why not use them for Jay Bruce? Not necessarily Gio because he's been locked in. I guess the Bruce at-bat jumps out at me the most. Why not one of those guys there?
Well, if you go Giancarlo there, then it's a two-player move, and you got to put DJ in, and then they bring in the lefty to face Odor, and I have no one to hit for him because we only have one extra infielder right now. So that's a two-player move. So had there been, runner on, runner in scoring position or something in that point, then maybe DJ comes into play right there. But I'm also saving DJ if a runner does get on, and it comes to Odor and they have the lefty warming up in the pen or not, then I have him to shoot in Odor's spot 2 batters later.
Sort of related then, I remember Tauchman was working out at first base. If Mike Tauchman is now available as a first baseman off the bench, it's obviously still a two-person move, but maybe now you're using Tauchman to come into a game. Are you close to being comfortable using Mike Tauchman at first base?
I do like the work he's put in. That said, I like actually even we've had Gary work over there and taking ground balls and stuff as far as, so if we get into one of those situations, but right now I still view it as kind of an emergency scenario. So in a tie game, am I ready to put them in, late in the game, for the first time? Probably not necessarily, unless, obviously things happen where, you have an injury in the game or you have to make a move, then I would absolutely use them.
Is Clint Frazier still the everyday left fielder?
Clint Frazier is still going to play a ton for us. He is pretty much the everyday left fielder. We happen to have a fourth outfielder in Brett Gardner that's going to play a lot for us. So, obviously people have been asking me a lot about Frage. lately. The reality is he started 9 of 12 games. I sat him 2 days in a row, where I felt like he was scuffling a little bit, and Gardy was on a good little run. So I guess I understand the questions, but let's ask the question a month, 6 weeks from now, and see what the body of work looks like, and see what the regularity looks like.
It's all about timing, because you're right. He started the first 9 games, but he's also sat 3 of the last 5 games. So that's where the question comes from.
I think the Frazier thing came up even more because he finally got the hit, and the thought amongst some fans was, hey, he broke the whatever it was, 0 for 17, he gets the hit, maybe try to capitalize on that because he got off the schneid. I think that's why people are asking.
Yeah, I mean, it was more of a, I sat him back-to-back days in Tampa, and that was more of a, wanted to give him a day, one, and then, like the matchup with Gardy a couple days in a row in there, getting him in a couple days in a row. So not much more than that.
Do we have
Frazier is going to play a ton. He's
right.
going to get to raking, and he's going to be a big part of this team.
You mentioned you'll come back and talk to me in X amount of time. There's like an old school baseball thing. I remember I always heard, hey, you don't judge a team until they've played X number of games. And it's kind of an arbitrary number. Some people say 20, some people say 40, whatever it is. Doesn't matter to me.
Right.
But there's a belief in that because baseball is a game ultimately of averages, right? And you're going to go on streaks. And right now, offensively, the team's just not putting it together just yet with men on base. Are you one of those guys that has an arbitrary number in your head? Hey, come talk to me after X amount of games.
Not really. When you said that, I guess I've always heard 40 games. You start to kind of have an idea who your team is and things like that. But I think that's more when I'm looking from the outside and maybe making an evaluation or something. I have a ton of confidence in our team and the depth of our club and the fact that over time we're going to get this thing rolling. And I feel like from an offensive standpoint, with a number of our guys still kind of finding their way, these are guys with serious track records that, eventually it's going to lead to some fun weeks, because eventually, I feel like there'll be some pitchers paying for some of the struggles here these first couple of weeks. And I feel like a couple of our guys, I'm starting to see starting to look like who they are.
Aaron Judge got that the other day with the 2 home runs.
Judge is obviously off to a good start. And I don't even feel like Judge is, totally locked in yet his numbers are really strong to this point. It's been a little up and down even by DJ standards, but he's still kind of getting on base, still getting his hits, but kind of finding his way. I feel like Gio the last weeks really started to swing the bat well. Gary's off to a pretty good start. I feel like Glaber's at bats yesterday was the first time I really was watching some of the swings he got off, and I was thinking, that's GT, here it comes. And just talking to him after the game, feel like hopefully he's starting to find his way as well.
Talking to Aaron Boone as we do every week, you're in a spot I don't think any Yankee manager has ever been in before, and that is handling the reality of players being not just aware but actively involved in social issues to the point where we all respect the fact that Aaron Hicks came to you and said, look, I can't go. And he was moved, as we all were, by what's taking place in Minnesota. And you have to balance that. And it's a balancing act that no manager has ever had to do before from a Yankee perspective. Every manager in baseball obviously is dealing with it right now. And then, of course, he comes out the next day and he got 3 hits, I think it was. And I wonder for you, that's a relationship builder, but it's also the type of thing that's very tough, I would assume, for you. So I'm just wondering, how is your clubhouse right now in regards to racial issues, social issues? How often do you guys talk about it? And how open is that dialogue amongst the guys and amongst the organization? And you kind of represent ownership, but also the players. How has it been the last couple of days and the last week for you inside that locker room?
Yeah, it's been okay. We have not had any talks as a group over the last few days over this, like we had a number of last summer. But there's definitely conversations going on, I know, between individuals, just from my personal standpoint, talking to, coaches, in maybe one or two or three at a time, talking to some players. I know players having conversations, obviously, with what came up with Aaron. Aaron, I think, felt supported and had a number of conversations with different players and different individuals on the team just to kind of, hear him out from where he was coming from. And those are important conversations to have, obviously. Not all of us are going to always agree on stances and things like that, but I think it's important that we at least try to, understand where every individual's coming from, and everyone deals with different things and internalizes and personalizes them in different ways. And we try and have as open a forum to, understand each other and support each other as best we can.
We're talking Aaron Boone, manager of the New York Yankees. Off day today. They got 3 games with Tampa coming up. A couple of things about Gary Sanchez. One is a compliment. Let me start with a compliment. He's not striking out as much. What adjustment have you noticed that's helped Gary not only hit the first few weeks of the season, but really cutting down on strikeouts?
I think it's been pitch selection. He's done a much better job of not leaving the strike zone as much. Last year, in particular, he got in I think a little bit of a rut where, he was chasing the ball up in the strike zone, leaving the strike zone up on the fastball, expanding on secondary pitches. And that's just been significantly better here to start the season. And that's what needs to continue for him. If he's making good swing decisions, he's going to do damage. And we've seen him walk a little bit here already early in the season as well, but it's a swing decision thing has been the biggest reason.
What happened on tying run at the plate is Aaron Hicks. Ball gets away from the catcher. It looked like Stanton may have paused for a second, but Gary obviously gets picked off. What happened on that play, and was there any conversation after Gary's out?
There was a ton of conversation.
I bet there was. What was it like? Take us into it.
Look, understand, especially when I talked to you guys last week, coming off 2 times where Gary didn't, almost got forced out at second when he kind of pulled up, and then, didn't get to second on the ball off the fence. So, and understand the noise and the story that always surrounds Gary. But we really dove into that play, from a lot of different angles, kind of talking to Reggie Willits, our first base and base running coach, about it, and Nevin and Carlos Mendoza. And when you really break that play down, Gary's in a really tough spot.
Right.
Because as the trail runner in that situation, it's a little bit akin to, let's say you had first and second and you had a double steal going. If the guy going from second to third shuts it down at all, you leave that guy out to dry. And not that it was necessarily Giancarlo's fault, because he's got to make sure we're down, 3 or 4 runs at that point. It's not imperative that we move up, but it is a ball we should be moving up on. And Stanton went to third, but that hesitation put Gary in a bad spot, and he got kind of caught up in no man's land there. So it was really one of those wonky, unfortunate plays that happened at a time when we're trying to crawl back in. So it looks really bad, but it's a really tough spot and a tough read.
And I don't think this is a knock on Gary, what I'm about to say, because when he caught Garrett Cole on opening day, everything was fine. It just seems like there is something with Garrett Cole and Kyle Higashioka. Like, the 2 starts since have been so dominant. So is this a thing now? Like, is this a marriage that's going to continue, or should we expect to see, I think it's Sunday afternoon, Cole's back on the mound, Gary behind the plate, or is Higgy going to be the permanent guy now?
Look, I will. At this point, I try to pair up Higgy and Cole when I can. That said, I do feel comfortable putting Gary back there. I think it actually went really well on opening day.
Yep.
I thought both guys did some really good things in that game. They were on the same page. Gary's in all the pregame meetings when he doesn't catch with whoever the starting pitcher may be. Whether it's Garrett or the other day, for example, Kluber. So, there's no question I like, pairing up Higgy and Cole, just because Cole's been so dominant and such a good groove with that. and I got to give Gary a day off, at least one every 5 probably anyway. So I think more often than not, I'll go that route, but there's going to be times throughout the season where it's going to be Gary back there, and frankly, I'm very comfortable with that.
Plus, Higgy rakes against Toronto, and he hit 2 home runs and won you the damn game. So who's complaining about it?
No question.
Nobody. You
that's
sound
the
like
thing about-
you're a big complainer over there.
I'm not complaining. I'm asking a damn question.
Listen, and Garrett's been lights out in the 2 games that Higgy's caught him this year. So there you go. There's your answer.
Here's my, I wouldn't even say this is complaining. This is a more strategic question. All right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You said the other day in the extra inning game, I was trying to stay away from Aroldis Chapman if it's a save situation. I'm saying this as a baseball.
No, I wasn't staying away from him.
Isn't that what you said?
Go ahead.
What did you say then? I apologize then if I misunderstood
in that game,
you.
the way because I've already this year brought him in that same situation.
Right.
I just felt like the way our bullpen was set up that day, that is the way I wanted to go, because I knew if I went Aroldis in the 9th, then I got to have Greeny save, and I'm going to leave Greeny out there for a couple innings, and I was really wanting to keep Greeny in more of a 1-inning scenario, so I just felt really good, and I always feel good about when Greeny's in the game, too, that if I got Greeny in the 9th there, then I got Chappie in a potential save situation on the road, also with a runner on second base to start that extra inning where, against Aroldis, that's going to be pretty difficult if you're in the bunt game or if you're, just trying to score him just because he's in such a good groove and such a good strikeout groove. And then I had Nelson if I needed any length behind Chappie at that point. So it just kind of worked out that way the other day, but I'm not totally adverse to bringing my closer in on the road in the tie game.
I've seen it. No, that's why I was surprised because I've seen you do it. It's one of the things I always compliment you back. As a baseball fan, I love it. I think with the extra, and tell me if you disagree with this, with the extra inning rule, I would rather use my closer in a tie game before the extra innings, only because let me make sure I get to it. I'm on the road, top of the inning. I already got a guy on second base. I almost look at it as I want to extend the game as long as possible. Do you view it that way at all? Or do you look at it as the opposite and say, Chapman is so damn good, I'd rather him pitch with the runner on second as opposed to your normal traditional inning?
Yeah, I mean, I do like him with a runner on second because I think he's going to be, especially the way he's throwing the ball right now, he's going to be really difficult to score on, even with that runner on second, even to get that run across. But also, Evan, it kind of varies. Each and every day is a different animal in that. Who do you have available in the pen? Who have you used already? How does it kind of line up? Where are you in the lineup and matchups and things like that? So there's going to be times where, it's a grouping or it's a group of players coming up that, I don't necessarily want a particular reliever facing, or I like him at a different part of the order. That's going to factor into those kind of decisions sometimes too.
When you take Kluber out after 4, as a veteran guy who's probably thinking about win totals, I think he's approaching his 100th win. Is that something he gets annoyed about? Like, was he ticked off in a way that he was pulled after 4 innings? What was the reaction to it?
Yeah, I think he was. I mean, he didn't say anything. He doesn't, but I did a lot of the talking there. But he's a competitor, and I feel like he is getting more and more comfortable just being back out there and building up and being in competition mode and kind of racking up live big time game reps now. But I'm also just really with these guys in the month of April, just coming off of a season that we did last year, and obviously, the different starters in our rotation coming off of various, whether it's inactive, injuries, whatever it may be. I'm really trying to be conscious of building them up, properly so that we're in a position, hopefully, that not only do we keep them healthy and strong, but when we start to get into the summer months, into the back end of the season, we're not worried about, we got to pull back here. We're trying to create that little bit of a drag and safe build up here in the month of April, especially when you have, off days that more so in April, where you can kind of do those kind of things. But we're getting to a point where, most of these guys are built up pretty far now that, hopefully we start to let them run a little bit more.
Speaking of starters, who we got tomorrow? We have an official starting pitcher for tomorrow night?
We don't, but we're going to recall Michael King.
Oh.
So he will factor in. So whether we go with a starter with him or we go opener into Michael King could factor in some way, and then we got Monty and Cole on Saturday. And
Are
Sunday.
you expecting, how do I say that? Kevin Cash was honest. Like, he's annoyed about the amount of Rays players being hit, as if that's never happened to you guys. Do you expect this rivalry to continue with maybe some, no, we're going to get a little revenge this weekend, we're going to hit this guy? Do you expect that, considering that comment was made?
I hope not. I certainly understand his frustration over the last series, having a few guys hit, Meadows back-to-back times. Like, I mean, I'd be pissed off about that too. I mean, if you're hitting our guys and it's not always about intentional, because I think Kevin Cash even acknowledged that clearly it wasn't, none of these were intentional,
right.
But still you're getting, especially your premium players knocked down or hit, that's frustrating, and you don't want to see that. So I understand the frustration there. I will say there's absolutely nothing intentional, and we don't want to go down that road at all. We feel like we want to have our blinders on and just, we know a good team's coming in to play us, a team that we're going to have to beat, and that'll be our focus, and that'll be what we're setting out to do, and hopefully, the extracurricular stuff hopefully is not there at all this weekend.
And what do you do today and tonight? Do you watch baseball on an off day? Do you shut down from watching? You watch a movie? No TV? What's I always wonder what guys like you do when you have an off day like this.
So I've been watching some afternoon baseball. Took my daughter to Dick's Sporting Goods. We had to do a couple of exchanges and pick up some things. So, but I've just been kind of laying around watching baseball and just chilling with the family a little bit.
Do you wear Yankee gear when you go to Dick's, or do you try to lay low and put the hat and sunglasses on?
I went with my SC gear today, so I have a UFC sweatshirt on.
All right, just checking. Because if Aaron Boone shows up wearing a Yankee golf shirt, that's a problem.
Which baseball game were you watching today? The Red Sox game? Our old friend Adam Ottavino giving it up? Were you watching that?
I did watch the end of that game. I'm watching a little bit of the White Sox and the Indians right now. I was watching a little bit of that Marlins and Braves game. So just kind of bopping around a little bit.
Well, I would think you'd be so baseballed out, you would avoid. I love this. Avoid all live baseball. Hell, put on the Sandlot. Anything. Anything.
Maybe The Princess Bride.
Exactly. That's right. Which my 10-year-old says is the worst movie he's ever seen. Apparently,
wasn't very good.
Good full circle on that. Well, listen, enjoy the night with your family, and we will talk to you next week. And good luck. And as always, thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. All right, Aaron Boone.